Hello guys, welcome to another video. In this particular video, I want to explain since the last 4 months when I did my last post, where have I been and what have I been working on. Now, I've been around, I've been in the tech industry, and a lot of things there are a lot of things that have happened which we haven't gotten an opportunity to talk about. There's AI, there's so on, and there's so on. There's just too much that has been happening. But in this particular video, I just want us to talk about what I've been building and something that is already in production at the moment. Now I'm going to just break it down to you like the entire flow of information or the user flow um, throughout the the processes. And then after I've broken down, I'm going to explain the different concepts. Now, what I've been building is a platform that runs on, and I want you to think in terms of SACCO or microfinance or insurance. The client is in that industry. Now, what I've been building on is USSD. And then once a member registers via the USSD, there are different entry points. Yeah? There is USSD and there is also website. But I'm not very much going to be talking about the website because we've pretty much talked about websites in this channel for quite a while, although not as extensively as we should have. Then once someone's make a registration via the USSD or the website, they receive an SDK push or payment via this is M-Pesa. And once they receive an SDK push by the M-Pesa, they then are stored in our database. This database is running on Postgres. And then once that's done, this data that is now in our local database is synced or synced to ERPNext. Now, you probably haven't like very much, and once it's synced to ERPNext, we then send an SMS that is on different stages. Now, you probably haven't interacted much with USSD or maybe even M-Pesa or even ERPNext and maybe SMSs. So the next couple of videos or most of the videos that I'm going to be making in this particular channel, I'm going to be breaking down the different, or we're going to be covering building different projects that are based on these particular concepts, understanding the different concepts around here, because I've realized that you can even build a career around this. But now, let me explain the different aspects on which I'm going to be basing the different videos now. Now, let's start with USSD. Now, some of the tutorials that we're going to be talking about, you're going to be talking about how you can build USSD. You're going to be talking about different providers. You're going in this particular section. We're going to be talking about, for example, Celcom Africa. We are going to be talking about African stocking. We're going to be talking about most of these providers and how their APIs are structured. For example, for this particular project that I'm talking about that we built here, we used Celcom Africa, but we had the option of also using African stocking. The client didn't um, work with them, couldn't work with them because meaning of the expenses. So this is one of the structures or things that we're going to be talking about. And in USSD, we're also going to be talking about different sessions and so on and so on. We're also going to be talking about M-Pesa. And I know most people, almost almost everyone nowadays is talking about M-Pesa. But working on this particular project, one thing that I've realized is most YouTube tutorials, including the one that I provided or the one that I created. And if you haven't checked that tutorial, please go and check it. It is as comprehensive as creating SDK push can be using Node.js. Now, I've realized Daraja, or generally Safaricom, has become somewhat unreliable. And this is not one of those videos where I bash about Safaricom all day. But the Daraja platform is somewhat unreliable. So one of the things that we need to design when creating a payment service for M-Pesa is we need to plan for one authorization, which is pretty much straightforward. We need to talk about SDK push, which is the most common ways now. Most people are now used to network initiated push. And then we are also going to be talking about callbacks, which is when you pay, you receive a callback. We're also going to be talking about um, querying or pouring. When you don't receive a callback, you can poll or you can pull, so that you can get the status of the payment. We're also going to talk about another issue that most people don't talk about. We're going to talk about payment notification. And then we're also going to talk about transaction status. From my interaction with this particular project, one of the things that I've realized is that your payment service should have all of this. For example, last week but one, callback weren't coming back, and pouring wasn't working. So what saved my clients' um, entire service? It's payment notification. So if one of the APIs fails, you should always have um, what do we call it? Like, it should be failure proof. You should have failure proof. And if callback fails, pouring fails, notification payment fails, you should always be able to let your customer or your service be able to interact with transaction status. And you're going to be talking about all of this in our future videos that you're going to be making. I'm even thinking, and maybe you can tell me in the comments if it's something that you'd love to watch or to buy, creating a course on all this, because I'm thinking if I'm to make it into a YouTube video, it's going to be very long. That is first. And then number two, I want to cover the entire journey from, for example, applying for a till stroke pay bill, because I've realized that this is one of the struggles that most developers have or most clients have. And that is another thing that we also did for this client. We applied for them the pay bill. All said and done, there's a lot of hassle in going live, which is another thing I'm thinking of packaging when I'm making this particular course. So if it's something that you'd want, or a certain course that you'd want me to create content around, please do let me in the comments. And it's going to be as comprehensive as possible, taking you through the entire M-Pesa integration, not just SDK push or not just talking the theory part of it. We are going to be starting from designing, system design, all the way to now integration and actually um, writing the actual code for this Nini service. Yeah. So if it's a course you would want me to prepare, please do let me know. But I'm also going to be creating a lot of free videos on YouTube covering the system design and integration. They're just going to be somewhat distributed, not distributed, but they're going to be in pieces, because I can't make like a one long 3 hour or 8 hour video. Yeah. There's a lot of content out there on Postgres, but I've realized that as much as there's much content on it, most people do not talk about the giveaways. when you implement certain things. And I'm going to be creating tutorials on content or on how to do the system design of, for example, um, let's assume, for example, that you're building, um, for example, a payment service. Yeah, you're going to be designing together, like how you're supposed to structure different aspects. For example, for such a project, how are you supposed to structure the members table? How are you supposed to structure the payments table, and so on and so on. So I'm also going to be covering more on that. You're going to try as much as possible not to be redundant because there is already too much content out there, but we're going to be covering that as well. Now, on ERPNext, this is one of the solutions that I'm also going to be talking so much on because ERPNext, and you haven't heard about it, you should probably go out there and check it. It's one of the most all-round software, open source software that you can use to create, for example, ERP system, medical systems, and so on and so on. So I'm also going to be creating a lot of content or, or building systems around ERPNext. From, for example, creating um, an insurance system that is properly integrated with emails, notifications, and so on and so on. So I'm also going to be preparing a lot of tutorials from onboarding to, for example, interacting with the Frappe framework. Um, yeah, because mainly I've realized that most of the tutorials out there on ERPNext are from Indians, especially especially the people who founded or started the Frappe community. So I'm also going to be, although there is a Kenyan called Karani, he also talks about ELP Next pretty much. So I'm also going to be preparing content around that, maybe explaining different modules, explaining different utilities within the Frappe framework, and explaining the different APIs and how you can manipulate different aspects of your ELP software. All basically they are all open source softwares because we have a couple. And in this section, we're also going to be talking about Python. Most of you who have been in this community or in these videos have probably seen me talk mostly about Node.js. So we are going to be talking about Python as well when covering these tutorials. Mainly because Frappe or ERPNext is also built on Node.js and Python, but mainly the Frappe framework is built around Python. Lastly is on SMSs. SMSs, we're going to be talking about um, designing a good SMS service, so to say, or a notification systems, or a notification system. Whether you are relying on email, SMSs, and maybe something else, we're going to design, to be talking about the designing process and maybe building an actual solution that you can use out there or sell as a service. Because one of the things that I've realized around when working with SMSs, you have to build for failure, and most APIs are not as comprehensive as they should. For example, one of the things that when working on this project, we worked with Celcom Africa for SMSs as well, and one of the things that I did realize is that sometimes Safaricom fails to give delivery reports, and their retry queue is not as comprehensive or as reliable as you would expect. So they also have an issue with queuing. So for example, if I send you an SMS and then it fails, um, and then it fails, um, I've realized that um, whether this SMS is going to be retried is not out there. It's not like openly spoken about. So you have to handle it within your solution. Your solution has to handle the retries. And this section, we're also going to be talking much about Redis and how you can design around um, sessions and trying to or queuing in general and retries for failures or design for failures within your system. So this is another thing that we're going to be talking about very comprehensively because it's pretty much important. Yeah. And yeah. So the basic thing that you're also going to be talking within SMSs, you're also going to be talking about the different aggregators. And this is going to be very public out there. So you can as well contribute as much as possible on the different aggregators that you've probably worked with. And if you haven't worked with any, we're going to be trying maybe 3 so that we can build content around it and then give reviews on different solution providers. Because I've realized you can be looking, for example, for USSD or even a USSD solution, but getting comprehensive review on who are the most reliable solution providers of a specific service, especially a service used associated with tech in the backend, it's the knowledge is pretty much scattered. So you have to try the different providers before you even settle on one. So you're also going to be giving a lot of content. I'm also going to be giving a lot of content around SMSs, and then we are also going to be giving a lot of reviews, yeah, on this around tech services. Now, now that I've taken you then through the entire project on on what I have, what I was working on, and how it inspired me to create content around it because of the handles that I faced. Um, Let me talk about the future of this channel. The future of this channel is going to be a little bit promising than it is right now. We're going to be making a video a week. Most of these videos are going to be follow-up videos. For example, if you are making, for example, a certain solution, for example, if you are designing an M-Pesa service, this service is probably going to read to like 10 videos, yeah? So most of them are going to be structured into playlists or something of the sort, yeah? Most of them are going to be um, follow-up videos. And then after we are done with the playlist, we can make one review video of what we've probably covered throughout the entire videos or throughout the entire playlist. The reason why I'm going to be structuring it this way, it's because I want it to be structured in a way that you can understand as much as possible and still choose to watch certain parts of of the playlist and skip some. We're also going to be doing at least one video a month touching grass. So most of these videos are going to be roving around visiting places because I've realized that as much as we want to work on tech, you also want to probably visit places like Giraffe Center, take drives maybe to Samburu and watch the mountains or the hills, take a drive to probably a place like Nyeri, interact with the community there, for example, the community of Dekut, and so on and so on. So I'm also going to be doing one video a month for Touchgrass. And at this juncture, if you are willing to be part of the Touchgrass, you can always email me, and then we can interact with that. We meet physically, we talk about tech, and so on and so on. Talk about what you've been doing, because I've realized there are also people out there who are building actual products and they are getting revenue out of it. And maybe talking about the different, for example, most people have been very much worried about AI, and most people are surviving with AI because they have shifted from, for example, looking for actual gigs to building products using AI. I've met um, devs who are making now websites or workflow automation using AI, and they don't have like much experience with tech. So what can you do? You who have or you who has experience working in tech, you can build products faster and launch them as now the product owner and create revenue out of it. So the revenue is not going anywhere. The shift is just changing a little bit, and whether it's sustainable or not, we'll know in a few couple of years. Yeah. So we're also going to be doing a touch class video once every month, and this is going to be visiting places, for example, drives or road trips, visiting places like Nyeri and so on and so on, Nyanyuki. There are a couple of places we can make, and then maybe go make some debate around it and so on and so on. Now, I hope that if these are some of the content that you'd be interested in, please do subscribe now and probably refer your friends so that they can be part of this community. That said, I hope you've watched this video to this point. And just to break down, maybe what we are going to be talking about, basically, we are going to be talking about Python projects, You're going to be talking about M-Pesa plus payment providers. You're also going to be talking about SMS aggregators. You're also going to be talking about USSD providers. And you're also going to be talking about PSQL and ERPNext. Yes, we're also going to be talking about Frappe Framework and so on and so on and so on. I can keep promising, but you stay around to watch the entire um, um, video content that I'm going to be publishing. And if you also be interested in working around some of this content, do email me. You can find my email around my profile, around my channel. Yeah, and let's see you in a couple of videos. Thank you for watching.